In today's lesson, we're going to think about what kind of work your mind needs to do when you're reading a text that doesn't fit exactly into a nonfiction or a biography or a story. So, what parts you're going to figure out which parts are kind of like a story and you would read them that way, and which parts are a little bit more nonfiction or expository. And and you know this because you're collecting main ideas and supporting details. So I'm going to read a text to you. It's from a book called George Washington's Breakfast. And what I'd like for you to do is think to yourself, which part is like a story and which part is more like nonfiction. Here we go. This is a book by Jean Fritz. George W. Allen was proud of two things: his name and his birthday. George was named for George Washington, and he had the same birthday, February 22nd. It made him feel almost related, he said. It made him want to know everything there was to know about George Washington. Already, he knew quite a lot. He knew that Washington was a general and lived in Virginia and was 6 feet tall and married to Martha and was the first president of the United States. He knew that Washington rode two horses in the war, Blueskin and Nelson, but Nelson was his favorite because he was so steady in gunfire. He also knew that Washington had once had 10 hunting dogs. Their names were Tipsy, Harry, Maiden, Lady, Duchess, Drunkard, True Love, Mopsy, and Pilot. All right, so now let's think about which part was more like a story and which part was more like nonfiction where you're learning things. Let's see, let's go back to the text. George W. Allen was proud of this. I'm thinking that this part is like a story. I'm thinking that because we're learning about the character in the book, and he's talking about how he feels and what he's proud of. So this is like a story. And then the next two paragraphs really are a lot of information. So as a reader, you have to think about these two sections in different ways. So you're thinking about them in two different lenses. One is your story lens and one is your learning lens. So when you read it as a story, you're thinking about the subject and why the subject is doing things and what they need and what struggles they face and what is the subject known for and what kind of lessons can you learn. And if you're reading a list like we read the end of those couple of paragraphs, you're thinking, what can I learn? So what topics can you learn about? What are the main ideas and supportive points that you can use or glean? When you're reading to learn from an expository text, remember, we pause after a chunk to try to figure out what is the main idea here and what are the supporting details. If there are no subheadings, you have to chunk the text yourself. And one way that nonfiction readers or expository readers make sure that they remember things and they learn is that they teach other people what they've just read. And it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to revise your idea of the text's main idea as you read. And most importantly, it's nice to let those texts spark conversations. So let's go back to this one more time and really think about, since these two paragraphs are giving you a lot of information about George Washington, what do you think we could say is the main idea? Hmm. I'm thinking George Washington was a man who loved animals. I know that because he has horses. He had lots of dogs. I don't know. Those are a couple of details. What's your idea? Today's assignment is to read a narrative nonfiction book and make some jots of something you read in your story with your story lens, something you read with your story lens, and something you read with your science or learning lens from the same book. So see if you can think about different things, different ways that you're learning, and then I'd like you to write that on your Padlet. Remember to fill in your reading log. And here's the list. Some of you guys forgot that you could look at books in Epic. So remember, we've got lots of places where you can look for books. Enjoy today's reading, guys.